Good morning, everyone. I'm back. I took a little break and went to Colorado to escape this unbelievable heat we've been experiencing. It has been over 100 degrees for as long as I can remember now, and yesterday it got up to 112. So this is a rather circumspect walkabout as I'm kind of analyzing things after being away and thinking about really what this heat portends for both the near future and the far future. So I did do a little bit of cleanup today, and this weekend I'm going to do 5 coping strategies to make your garden look a little bit better when temps are just astronomical. Now, a lot of you have asked, is this normal? Well, we always have hot summers in Oklahoma. I will not deny it. But the trend is definitely escalating. And back in the 30s, we had terribly hot weather. Back in the 80s, we had terribly hot weather. But now what is happening is that those intense summers are now being more compressed. In other words, instead of happening every few decades, they're now happening every few years. So even for us, these temperatures are really excessive, particularly when you think about the fact that we haven't had any rain in quite a while. So I think it's time that we all start looking at our gardens in that, with that in mind, and definitely I am. And trying to do it without getting, with being objective, without getting too depressed or upset over it, which, as I've said ad nauseum, is one of the reasons that I talk so much about using evergreens and line, shape, and form to keep your gardens interesting, not only in the winter, but also in the dead of summer. So one of the mitigating measures that I took to help address the heat, as I have told you and Stuart showed you, and by the way, thank you so much to Stuart and Carrie, who kind of held down the fort while I was gone. And my question of the day is, did they not do just a great job? I am so fortunate to have them, not only to have my back for doing these videos and such, putting up content, but also for watering and just making sure that things don't fall apart while I'm gone, because we all know the anxiety that we can have when we go out of town, and then what things are going to look like when we come back. So let me go back to talking about the tarp that I put up overhead. I have not done a deep dive into it, so let me be a little bit more exacting and a little bit more specific about it. In 2011, I believe, we had another extreme summer with temperatures above 110 for a very long period of time, and I knew how badly the potager and the boxwood in particular suffered during that period of time. So when it looked like we were getting ready to go back into that weather pattern, I decided to cover it. And I knew the approximate dimensions of this space, and so I just shopped for shade cloth accordingly. I got this one off of Amazon. It was not prohibitively expensive. I think it was about $20. It measures 12 by 20. In retrospect, I probably would have gotten it even a little bit larger, and in fact I ordered a 20 by 20 for the future in case I really want to enclose more of this area or protect more of this area. Now, some of you mentioned, well, I should stain the posts and I should make it a little bit, I should make it more attractive. Well, if I decide ultimately that this might be a permanent measure, yes, I might do that. But this year it's a temporary measure. It was experimental, and so far I've been pretty gratified with how it's turned out. So what we did was just take some posts and sunk them into plastic buckets that were then filled with concrete. And then for additional stability, we even had to put gravel on top of that. Now, it could be that you could line it and just have the cement blocks later, which could be removed from the buckets. You could also line the posts so that the posts could come out. And I actually had someone do this for me because it was a little bit heavy work. But it worked out fairly well, and we were able to move the buckets and adjust it accordingly. And then all we did was just put some hooks on top of the posts, and then the grommets just were able, with an S hook, to be secured to the posts. Now, actually, I found it far more pleasing in appearance than I expected. I expected it to just look rather shabby and not necessarily like an attractive feature of the garden, but I have to say that I actually found it kind of pleasing and made this area a little bit more intimate. So in the future, if I decide to keep it, what I will do is probably stain the posts my signature color, which is kind of a deep bronzy brown, straighten them, move them out, and then when I don't need the tarp, put some string lights or something on them so that this space is that much more magical. And that is something that I may do in the future. Right now, it's too hot really to be too ambitious about doing too many things. So right now I am just trying to protect what I have planted in both the way of the gardening infrastructure back here, the wintergreen boxwood, and this is wintergreen, by the way, and yes, I am thrilled with the way it is recovering from last year. It's pretty tough, and it will be beautiful this fall, I think, with enough protection. It is not getting too burned right now. Someone inquired as to the eggplant. I think this was one of Stuart's questions of the day, what this was. This is icicle eggplant, and this is an AAS, an American Select Seed winner, that they asked me to try. And it's a beautiful plant. I love the healthy green foliage, and I love the sweet, sweet little purple flowers, which, by the way, are producing fruit. And as I get over to that side, I will show you some of the baby eggplants that I am thrilled to see are appearing, because when it gets to be so hot, pollination is difficult, and it's hard for things to produce fruit. So I may have lots of flowers right now, but I don't have lots of tomatoes. I am hoping as things cool, it will be a little bit better. But I do have some eggplant. Let me come around to this side, and you can see I even surprisingly have a little bit of color in the border, and I'm going to talk about that this weekend, probably, what is performing well and what changes I intend to make. But even the boxwood balls that I planted, they were in the ground and I put them in the pots. Those are doing well. But look at these sweet, sweet little eggplants that are on here. So I'm going to start researching eggplant recipes. Over the holiday, when I was gone, I had a number of really wonderful combo chopped salads, and I'm really into that right now. So we may have to go into the kitchen and look at some chopped salad combos. A lot of you wanted to know what this tall bloomer was, and this is a cut leaf coneflower, a rudbeckia, and it's brilliant. Next year I do need to support it at the base because it does get tall and lanky, but from a distance, and right now that's kind of what I'm about. Up close and personal, things don't look great, but from a distance, they are still looking not too bad. Some of the arborvitas are really getting sunburned, but others are doing well. I have not clipped the sunshine ligustrum back here. I'm letting it just do its thing, partly because it's too hot to really be working outside much. And my morning hours are consumed with just watering and doing what little garden grooming I decide to do at this time of year. A lot of this coleus is really looking beautiful. And by the way, this was coleus that was to be in my live plant selection for QVC, and then for a number of different reasons related to our wacky world, we could not make them available this year. But these were samples that they sent me to try, and this deep maroon is absolutely exquisite, and it looks even more gorgeous when it gets enough sun and it is paired with beautiful things like the sunshine ligustrum. And this is some fennel, which I am not unhappy to say has been pretty much decimated by swallowtail caterpillars, and I'm so thrilled about that. So that's just fine, you guys. This can look straggly, as can all of the dill. It is happy to serve you. This is a false Gara that I got at Bustani. I am waiting anxiously for it to do something. In the meantime, its delicate gray foliage is appealing and enhances the other gray foliage in the garden. The peppers aren't as productive as they normally are, but I noticed, let's see if I've got any on this plant here. I'm not sure. I think this is maybe a dragonfly pepper. I need to check my tag. I did notice that I have some little shishito peppers. Obviously my camera work does not meet up to Stuart's standards, but nevertheless. So I've got some shishito peppers here, just a couple, which amazingly are producing even in this heat. We take what we can get. You can see the little tiny ones. I love shishito peppers. They're so easy to prepare, and they're delicious. And by the way, I'm hearing all sorts of power equipment and drilling. Please send a kind thought to all of those workers that have to be out doing the work we don't want to do in this abominable heat. And by the way, also, I am so thinking of everyone in Europe, in Great Britain in particular, who are suffering from these extraordinary temperatures as well, and quite frankly, who are not used to them. I know you're having problems with your infrastructure. I know most of you don't have air conditioning, which just must be abysmal for you. A number of you have contacted me about that, and I so feel your pain. We are very fortunate here that we do have air conditioning, and because we are used to the heat, we can take measures to address it. Though when it's hot, we all suffer. And as things get progressively hotter, we need to think accordingly. So definitely that is on my mind. It's on my radar. I am making lots of notes in my garden journal about what things I will grow in the future and which things I will not. Not only because they may not be able to tolerate the heat, but they may not be able to tolerate the drought. Again, I got the tarp from Amazon, and we will put a link. And there are probably different ways that you could compose this around your own gardens according to their scale. There is some support on both sides as well. If I made it a permanent feature, it might look kind of cool. So that's how it came together. These posts, a tarp, some cement, some buckets, and some congenial strong help to help me put it up. You guys try to stay cool. And there you go. There's your Wednesday walkabout for today.